What's that level? We can define that in increasingly greater depths.
Right.
And then we can create, okay, well, we can have it be super hot. We just need this material on top of it. It'll stop the burn but allow the heat. It's
totally.
And it's that process. Wilber calls it 3 strands of epistemological valid knowledge, which is that you have a paradigm or a set of instructions. Paradigm essentially means a set of instructions, right? So it's a recipe. That's the first step. You have to create a recipe. You have to clarify the distinctions, put them in a sequence, and say, here's what you do. Here's an experiment. Then the second, you actually have to perform the experiment. Right? You can't just look at the experiment and go, oh, I look at that experiment, I say that it's not going to work. You actually have to perform the experiment. That's the second strand of valid knowledge. And then the third strand of valid knowledge is you have to compare your results with what he calls the community of the adequate. The community of the adequate are the people who understand the instructions and have performed them. Right? You get 10 people performing the same experiment. Right? They design the experiment, step 1. Perform the experiment, step 2. Step 3, compare the results. If you don't do the experiment, you are not qualified to judge the accuracy of the statement. Now, you can look at the results and show contradictions in the results, even if you haven't done the statement.
And
but the community of the adequate
that
presupposes a different set of qualities, right? And rationality is the fundamental set of recipes that the better you get at rationality, the better you can determine all results. And that's where I say orange is the key. Because orange is the bridge from unconsciousness into
stimulus
consciousness.
Response to choice.
To rational, being able to run genius cycles.
Yes.
Until you can make a differentiation and go, I fantasize that, I'm actually dealing with data. Until you can make that and logically work that out, you're flying blind. And that's why orange is so important. Once you've got orange, once you've got science, once you've got dispassionate, objective observation, strict, rigorous rationality, scientific method, the 3 strands of valid knowledge, once you've got that, then you can begin to systematically question when you have prejudice. When is my prejudice giving me my results versus when is the data giving me my results?
Yes.
When am I interpreting something into existence that is unreal versus when is the data coming through? And we do that by genius cycles. We just test. We create a hypothesis and we test the hypothesis. If you don't test the hypothesis, right, it's not orange. Right? Orange always tests the hypothesis. And that is the fundamental shift. Because when you get that, then you can get into spirituality and say, okay, what spiritual teachings actually create satori, actually create breakthroughs in awareness?
Right. Totally.
Because you can test it.
Totally.
Right?
And that's what, I think that's where Almas kind of came in and went, how come fucking people don't really get it?
Yeah.
How come they meditate, but they don't really get what they say that they're getting? He's like, well, his answer was that, his answer is that that he presupposes that there's an innate intelligence, right, and that your introjects, right, are what get in the way of you, or of that being distorted. That when you start to question the presupposed, right, and you see it, now he has a very naturalistic way of doing it, because he has a fundamentally he feels that there is
that the underlying structure of humanity, this existence exists, the nature of humanity is naturally creatively intelligent in a way that fits the spiritual descriptions. And all we have to do is essentially get the stuff out of the way in order to get there.
Well, it's more like, but what I don't think he sees though, right, is that he talks about, he kind of goes, at a certain point you get rid of mind. I would say that like what he's, I think that's way overgeneralization, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is kind of what we've talked about and what Wilber's critique is of the whole retro-romantic movement.
Yes.
The acorn,
contains
the oak.
He contradicts it though.
Who? Almost.
Yeah.
Sometimes he says that it's kind of you get rid of the mind, and sometimes it's the mind.
Yeah, his whole thing was like, he's like, it's fucking weak logic to sit there and say that the Western philosophical tradition was a mistake. He says, what the fuck is this? There's a fucking purpose for it. Like, it's the stupidest thing. It's not a mistake. It's a matter, it's like, it's there for a reason, right? Let's integrate it, right? Like an ego that's transparent to your intrinsic intelligence, right? And he has a lot more of a spontaneity thing. But then there's these leaps that he makes.
And the question is, what is the nature of the intrinsic intelligence?
Yes. Well, what he says is the nature is that there are qualities, and I think that these are what you're talking about as natural values.
Natural values, yes.
And he says that when you experience them directly as consciousness, you experience its non-narcissistic sense of self.
Right. And here's the challenge. The place where the idealists are right is that you never experience it directly.
Right.
You always experience it through a frame, and that frame is always going to have some level of distortion. It's an asymptote.
Okay, well here's the thing. Okay, so feel can you feel the sensations in your foot?
Yeah.
Okay. Now try to find, like, we say that we feel the sensations in our foot and then we know about it. But actually, the sensation and the knowing are the same thing. We conceptually break it down, but in actual experience,
agreed,
it's immediate knowledge.
Agreed.
He says that, and I actually have experienced this, is that I haven't stabilized it, right? He says that you can stabilize it, but I haven't stabilized it. I don't know if I want to, because it doesn't seem as fun. Is that your sense of self, your I amness, is that kind of experience?
I don't disagree with that. But you've done a Vipassana retreat, so I'll use that as a common frame of reference. So when I've done Vipassana and I've done body sweeps, what I notice is that an hour and a half, 4 hours, 8 hours into a series of sessions, the experience in my foot is different.
Yeah.
Right? It's always immediate. It's always now. It's not that it's happening and I think about it, right? Because the thought is different than the experience. It's the thought about the experience. And that's always happening right now. And it is what it is. But the fact that my foot, the feelings in my foot continually change, the way they change is a function of the way I'm directing my attention.
Exactly.
And
that's
so,
what I noticed too.
And so the self that you directly experience is a function of how you're looking at it. And yes, you experience it as an ongoing, inner, unmediated, in the sense of it's the direct experience.
Subject, object, subject.
Right? And the example, and this is why I think the example of, I'm glad you said foot, because it reminds me of Buddha and trying to gain a left foot. Right? The experience you're having in your foot, when you experience it, that experience is direct and immediate. It is unmediated in the experience of consciousness. Now, it's mediated through a whole series of neurons, right? But it's unmediated in the sense that the experience is completely now, and it's not something else. It is that experience. Now, I can also think about the experience in my foot. Oh, I'm having an experience in my foot versus my left hand. Okay, so now I'm not experiencing my foot. I'm experiencing the concept of foot, the concept of hand, the relative distance, the fact that it's part of my body. I'm experiencing that whole thing as a totality.